for joining me in this third stop in the virtual book tour for The Fall of the House of Byron. Tonight I was supposed to be speaking for the lovely City Books at the Regency townhouse in Brighton Hove. Alas, I'm here in my own office instead. But after the grimness of yesterday's post, I wanted today to delve into one of the juiciest sex scandals that rocked the 18th century Byron family. So I'd like to transport you back to December 1778, the small village of Rottingdean, a few miles out of central Brighton, and the very first very public scandal of Captain Jack Byron, about 9 years before he becomes the father of the future poet. So here we have him, a very dashing 21-year-old military officer lounging around in bed with the beautiful 24-year-old Amelia, Lady Carmarthen. And they've been in a sexual relationship for a few weeks now, but they've, on being found out, taken the very drastic decision to elope from London, from her husband, Lord Carmarthen, and from her 3 children. Suddenly the door is flung open and in comes a very unwelcome visitor. Mr. Shadbolt is the servant of Amelia's heartbroken husband. The scene is described later in court. John Cates, Mr. Byron's man, desired him to go up with him to Lady C, which he did, and saw her ladyship with a pen in her hand, sitting up in bed, with Mr. Byron between the sheets. The couple were promptly dragged back to London, and Amelia and her husband have this amazing correspondence, some of which features in my book for the very first time. He is far too nice to her. It's infuriating. I was getting annoyed just reading it centuries later. Anyway, the scandal erupts onto the public scene, and Amelia is savaged in the press and in private correspondence. The blue-stocking Elizabeth Montagu was far from impressed with what seemed to be a contagion of infidelity among high society ladies. She wrote to her sister, "Lady Carmarthen ran away yesterday with a young officer. If he is wise, he will soon desert her. I'm glad she has rid the prettiest young man in England of the most vicious and detestable creature that ever disgraced the race of womankind." Knowing his later reputation, it's easy to label this as Jack's scandal, but really it was Amelia's. As one gossiping magazine put it, it was her ladyship who stood at the centre of this brilliant vortex of dissipation. When the divorce case made it to court, the public lapped up the tawdry details of the two sneaking around at night and giggling in bed together while her husband was away. The gossiping maidservants described how they had observed that 2 people had slept on her ladyship's bed, and one morning they observed Mr. Byron peep out of her bedchamber. One night in particular they saw him in her bed, into which Lady C herself soon went after bolting the door. It was all very reckless. The two did mitigate their disgrace slightly by marrying in June 1779, just a few weeks before the birth of their first short-lived daughter, Sophia. Sadly, this marriage that was born of scandal seems only to have gone from sorrow to sorrow, but that is for another time. Please check back next week for some travels to 18th century Canterbury, Newstead Abbey itself, and Oxford. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed these posts and you fancy getting your hands on a copy of the book, please do. The official launch is tomorrow, Thursday the 16th. I have put a link where you can support City Books in the video description. Thank you very much, and I'll see you tomorrow.